Hello, everyone. I am back in a familiar location. But we're going to do our match week 17 preview for the Premier League. But first, let's start with a prayer, as we usually do. Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this day. I thank you for this period of rest that you've given me this period of time where I can really lock in on this. That I feel like you have given me the passion to do. I thank you for all my viewers. I pray that you bless them, bless their families, protect their families. Pray the word of Lord Jesus Christ over all of us as we enter, 2026. I pray the Lord Jesus Christ over all of us and our families, that no plot of the enemy will succeed coming into this year as he tries to take anyone away from us. And I pray that you really just, I pray that first that you forgive us of all of our sins. Please, cleanse us of all unrighteousness, all impurity, and really create a new heart within us, Lord, so that we can love the things of your kingdom, not the things of this world, so that we can really walk the narrow path. And I pray that you just anoint me with your spirit of excellence, and just make this an enriching video for my viewers. In the name of Lord Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen. All right, guys. So we got 10 games, like always, to go through. And it's going to start with Newcastle versus Chelsea. I think Newcastle just haven't really been that good lately, to be honest. I feel like this is a team that's been consistently underachieving this season, given the squad that they have. I feel like you would expect a lot more from Eddie Howe. He's a great manager. But you look at Voltemade, you look at Gordon, you look at Alenga, you look at their midfield, Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Ellington, Tonali, Lewis Miley, who's young. You even go to their backline, they got two amazing fullbacks in Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento. They got Dan Byrne. They even have Ramsdale, who's a pretty good goalkeeper in net. I feel like, and then Harvey Barnes. What's his name? Jacob Murphy. They have a lot of really good players, and they have been really successful in the Premier League recently. I think after the money that they spent this summer, also bringing in the likes of Vissa, you would expect them to be a little bit better than they have been. But nonetheless, they're always going to be a threat. Voltemade is amazing. Their midfield and their fullbacks are great, always strong, as I just stated. I think is it Malik or Malik? I think it's Malik. But Malik Dia, he's really good at center back as well. Lewis Miley, he's been starting a lot more lately. I think the first time I really was, I guess, introduced to Miley was, I think we were playing them in the 23-24 season. And, Newcastle fans, I guess he was breaking through just as Mainu was breaking through. And Newcastle fans were saying that he's better than Mainu. And I just thought that was ridiculous. But I tuned in. He's pretty good. I see there is a big talent there. I don't think it's quite the same level as Mainu, but nonetheless, great player. Newcastle's a team that I really just love. So I do kind of hate seeing them be like this, but it is what it is. Esteval for Chelsea got injured. That's a shame. That's one of the most exciting young players in the world, who I think really could rival Yamal. And I guess Cole Palmer and Greenwood and Olise, like that position is just stacked. I think that's the best position in world football, the right wing. But Palmer is back. Palmer's firing again. He had a great finish, where he also orchestrated the play. He conducted it in the last game. I thought that was great. He's just a brilliant player. I think Caicedo should be available after serving his suspension. He played against Cardiff in the win in the Carabao Cup during midweek. And he's just obviously he's a top three midfielder in the Premier League. So that's going to be a great addition or a great reintegration, I guess, for Chelsea. So I think the midfield battle is definitely going to be the thing to watch. You got, I think Chelsea is a little bit hard to predict what they're going to do. They have a lot of options, but what I think is what I think they're going to do, I think it's going to be Caicedo, obviously, Enzo, and then Palmer may play on the wing is the thing, because I'm thinking you definitely are not starting Bino Gittins. I think you start Neto on the left. And I think you might put Palmer on the right because I think this is a game where Garnacho would struggle. I don't think Garnacho has a good game against Tino Livramento to start off. Um, he kind of struggles with those, physical but athletic, robust kind of fullbacks. I think you want him to come on in the game, be an impact sub, and he's going to absolutely wreak havoc. So I think what Maresca is going to do is put Palmer on the right wing. So then that actually frees up Reece James to play in midfield with Caicedo and Enzo. I think that is probably what he's going to go for, but there are a lot of different options that he can go for. So that's definitely something to look at. But for Newcastle, I would expect Miley, Tonali, and Guimaraes. I think that would be pretty quality. And then Vissa's back for Newcastle. He's finally been playing. He's finally had a run of games. I think he's played 2 games now. So that should be good to see him coming off the bench. But Delap and I already said Estevao are going to be out injured. Again, we might see Reece James at right back, but I think, with the pace of Anthony Gordon, if he elects to go with Gordon, he might go with Harvey Barnes. But with the pace of Gordon, I think just knowing how injury prone Reece James has been, I think he could definitely handle it. And I think he's one of the best right backs in the world, if not the best. So I think he could definitely handle it, but I think Maresca may just want to protect him. And you have Gusto, who's also a really, really good right back. So I think we probably see Gusto at right back. And like I said, Reece James in the midfield. Neto's been really good. He obviously had scored a goal against Cardiff. Um, I think it was yesterday for me at the time I'm filming this video. He scored a goal. I think he also scored a goal in the Premier League 2 weeks ago, I want to say. It might have been last week though as well. But he's in a really good form. I can't lie, I have been a hater of Pedro Neto. Beginning of the season, I just wasn't really seeing where the hype was. I didn't really see the technique that he had. I didn't think he was that great of a dribbler. I just thought he was a pace merchant, but he's really coming into his own. I think he's really, he's beating his defenders consistently. He's putting quality deliveries into the box. He's scoring goals. There isn't really much you can ask of him, much more you can ask of him. I think he has been Chelsea's best winger this season. For Garnacho, I think he's also been really good for Chelsea. As a United fan, I knew off the bat he was going to be one of Chelsea's best wingers. I mean, he's just always a threat. He's always running in behind. He makes intelligent runs. He's rarely offsides. He has more technique than people give him credit for. Um, he really is a pain to stop. And when he's on it, his finishing is great too. But his finishing is definitely shaky at times. But like I said, I think he would struggle against Livramento. So I think this is a game where you bring him off the bench to be an impact sub, which is something that he really thrives at. I think, yeah, I think Joao Pedro may either really struggle with Newcastle center backs, just because they're big, they're kind of robust. They could just make it difficult. He's not really the lone striker type. Um, but again, I think another thing we may not see Reece James at all, or we may see Reece James at right back. See, um, a kind of two striker system, which Maresca has done several times throughout the season. And unfortunately, Delap is injured, but we could see Guyu and Pedro. We could see Guyu and Pedro. I think, against a team like Newcastle, I don't think that that's what he would opt for, but definitely something to look out for. And I think it's definitely going to be a tough match. I think Voltamata is going to be very difficult to stop. I think he's going to be a threat throughout the game, just aerially. I think he's like a decent amount taller than any of Chelsea's center backs. And I would assume Chelsea are going to play Chalobah and Wesley Fofana. And I just think he could really be a handful for them aerially. So I would expect a header goal from Voltamad. I think the game could go either way, but I'm ultimately going to predict 2-1 Chelsea, which is a little bit risky, especially away from home. And Chelsea are pretty inconsistent, but I'm going to give it to Chelsea. I think Garnacho is going to make an impact off the bench, wreak havoc. Again, Voltamad goal, and I think Palmer is always going to be among the goals and assists. So, on to the next one. Wolves versus Brentford. Not going to spend that much time on this game just because I don't think it's going to be a very entertaining one, to be honest. Brentford is a pretty good side, though, I will say, but Wolves is, again, one of the worst Premier League teams I think we have ever seen. But Igor Thiago, very strong player, scored a lot of goals already, broke Tony and Mbemo's record for Brentford, was the player of the month for November, I believe, in the Premier League. So definitely someone to look out for. I think he's someone who could also be, he could be in the Brazil squad for the World Cup. It's Brazil. I mean, Jesus is getting healthy too, and then that's something to look out for. Who's going to be the number 9 for Brazil? We could see Igor Thiago. But anyways, Henderson has also been really good for Brentford. He scored his first goal for them last week against Leeds. Wolves are really poor, but they almost took a point at Arsenal. So that's something to think about. They will fight. They will do everything they can to get a win, especially at home. They're going to want to play well for the supporters. I think Joao Gomez is a quality player. I would want United to sign him. I think, they were definitely missing him in the game against United, and he showed his quality in the game against Arsenal. I think he almost scored, but yeah, he's a quality player. But again, Wolves are definitely going to fight, but I think I'm just going to go with a 2-0 Brentford victory. Yeah, not really much else to say. Man City versus West Ham. I think this is going to be a tougher game for City than people think. West Ham isn't as bad as they seem, but yeah, Cherky, let me say it properly. Cherky scored a banger in the Carabao Cup, and he's just sensational. I mean, left foot, right foot. He has no weak foot. So much quality. He looks like he just has time always. He's so composed. In a team like Manchester City, to look that far above the rest in quality is just, it's something special. And we saw Pep even said that he's never seen Messi do things like that. Obviously, he raves on and on about Messi. I don't think he will ever say that there's a better player than Messi. But when he saw that Rabona cross to Foden, he did say that, I've never seen Messi do something like that, unprompted. The reporter didn't even ask about Messi, but he said that. And I think he's just behind Bruno for assists in the league, but he's missed so much time through injury that, really we should just give it to him. He's really ahead. But against Palace last week, it was a tough game for City. Palace are just a really good team, so that's just going to make sense. They're going to make it difficult for anybody, but ultimately City came through, and I think it's just one of those things where they just have too many difference makers. It's going to be hard to ever beat City because they always have a player who can win a game for you in a moment. And that's just something that you can't really prepare for. Doku right now is one of the top 5 to 10 left wingers in the world. I'd have to say. Every time that I watch him, it's just amazing. He has 3 moves. He basically has 3 moves, and he beats his defender almost every single time. And as someone who is, at least when it comes to basketball, I feel like athleticism is a big part of my game. Quick first step, and being able to get by my defender. I really want to study him, to see how he leverages his quick first step in soccer, because I don't think that that's something that I have quite, I think that's a tool that can make me a lot better as a player. And I think he's so good at it. But Foden, Foden has 6 goals in his last 5 games, I think, and an assist versus Brentford. Um, he's just in great form right now. I mean, he's flying. I think him and Chucky have a really, really good relationship. They just understand each other. They both just have that quality, and it's just exciting. It's just exciting. I think, we're probably going to see him in midfield. I think that's where we should see him, because Pep is liking to play his wingers, but more like inverted. So, like, kind of like playing like in midfield, and then the fullbacks will kind of provide the width. I think, you know, we'll probably see Chucky, Doku, and then Foden in midfield. But I think Chucky also started the game today, at the day I'm filming it, against who did they play? Brentford. Against Brentford, he started that game. Foden came on in the first half, but he didn't start. So there's a chance. There's a chance that Chucky doesn't start, but I think he probably starts. I think City's defense was just it's just not good. It really just isn't that good. It kind of reminds me of Manchester United. I think both City and United were so threatening going forward, but going at the back, it's just shambles. Vardiol has honestly been pretty poor every single time that I've watched City this season. I've yet to be sold on him, and I know, and I loved Vardiol. I mean, at left back, I thought he might have been the best left back in the world for what 2 seasons that it was. I love him. He's great. I might have been might have been three. I think 2 seasons, but he's amazing at left back. And then obviously he was signed as a center back from Leipzig and played center back for Croatia, and it was really really good. But I'm just not really seeing it. I feel like in the game against Palace, there was a time where I think it was Sar made a run in behind him, and he was just completely unaware. He had no clue of what was going on. And he also just, he's making mistakes on the ball. Like, he just hasn't been great at all. Um, and then I think I have talked about on this channel before that I just don't really rate Ruben Diaz. I think he's very overrated. It's not that I don't rate him necessarily. I think actually the last time I watched City, I realized he's a lot better on the ball than I give him credit for. So people always talk about he's a pure defender, he's a defender's defender, like an old school defender, but he does actually have a lot of quality on the ball. I think, that's probably something that from just being at City for so long, you're just naturally going to gain. But again, defensively, I think he is a bit overrated. I think if he was really as good as people chalk him up to be, and maybe he's fallen off, maybe he is fallen off, but if he's really as good as people chalk him up to be, then City would not have the defensive issues that they do, especially with Donnarumma and net. But I think Rodri coming back could also solve a lot of that. But Holland, Doku, Foden, and Cheki can just, again, they can win you a match at any moment. Any moment, they can win you a match. And that's just, it's always going to be hard to bet against that, realistically. They also beat Madrid recently. I think, they were kind of holding on. Pep made some questionable subs. He subbed like all their best attackers. And I think towards the end of the game, they were really just holding on for dear life. I think Madrid probably should have equalized, but they were a bit wasteful. Vinny and also Endrick they each had a really good chance. They both didn't capitalize. On to West Ham though. They pressed really well against Villa, at least in the beginning. Led to a goal from Matoish. Matheus Fernandez. Yeah, okay. We're just gonna go with that. Jared Bowen is always gonna be a threat. And I think Nico Riley will do a good job. But I don't know if Vardy is gonna do a good job, to be honest. I think Bowen might get the best of him if it comes to that. And I think Callum Wilson is also going to pose a threat for City again. I just haven't been really sold on their center backs lately. I think it's important to note that City did play during the week. They played today as I'm filming this video. But they are at home. It's really hard to beat City at the Etihad. So that's another thing to account for. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I was going to say, as I was preparing my notes for this, I was literally writing that Wan-Bissaka versus Doku was going to be something to behold. Wan-Bissaka, you know, I mean, I'm getting flashbacks to the Manchester United versus Man City FA Cup 2 seasons ago, where Wan-Bissaka just clamped Doku. Like, Doku is the most neutralized I've ever seen him. He didn't really do any. He ended up getting a goal, to be fair to him. He did score, but I don't really chalk that up to Wan-Bissaka. When it was a 1v1, Wan-Bissaka was dominating. So that would have been something to watch. I think that would have been the hardest fight that Doku's had all season. But unfortunately, Wan-Bissaka is going to be at AFCON. So we're not going to be able to see that. But I think this game is going to be one that City struggle a little bit more than people think and expect. But I'm going to predict a 2-1 Manchester City victory. I just think Haaland is too good. Cherki and Foden aren't playing so well. Same with Doku. I just think they have too many match winners. On to Brighton versus Sunderland. I think it's really amazing what Sunderland have done. It's really a model that all promoted sides need to look to. They just splash the cash, and that's what you need to do as a promoted side. If you really want to have a decent shot of staying in the Premier League, I mean, this is the most competitive league in the world. If you want a decent shot at competing, you're getting promoted from the Championship, you really need to spend as much money as possible. And Sunderland did a good job of that. I think they spent like upwards of £100 million, and it's paid off. I mean, they're in the top of the table. They're tied for 5th right now with United, Liverpool, and Palace. And so, yeah, I think that's something that every promoted side should look at. Brian Brobby is going to be a threat. Enzo Lefebvre, Granit Xhaka, Mukiele, great players. I also was going to mention Talbi, but he is going to be at AFCON as well with Morocco. So that's going to be, a loss for Sunderland, a pretty big loss for them. As for Brighton, they're going to be without Baleba, who I think Fabrizio Romano basically said United are almost 100% getting Baleba, which I'm very excited about. We're building a strong Cameroonian core at Manchester United. But yeah, for Brighton, I mean, that's one of their best players. Even though he had a rough start to the season, he's been playing a lot better now, and I think losing him is just going to make it a lot more difficult to have that control in midfield to win the ball back. He's just in the right place at the right time, and when he's in the wrong place, he has the athleticism to be able to get to the right place in time. So it's going to be a huge loss for them. But, they were subbing him at half a lot earlier on in the season, and, they fared okay. So I guess they'll be all right. Brighton are very lucky to not lose Ikumba Minte. It's one of their best players. He's so good. I'd seen a report that Liverpool were looking to sign him, and I think just his athleticism, his dribbling, his delivery, he's just a quality player. And yeah, they're just lucky that, Gambia, I think he's Gambian, didn't qualify for AFCON, so they're going to be able to keep him. But they, on the bright side, I think Brighton are going to, I think Matoma might be ready to start. He's been coming off the bench a little bit. I think this could be the game where he's ready to start. And Matoma, when Matoma's healthy, he's easily one of the best wingers the world. His dribbling, it's just, I don't even know how to explain it. It's not really that similar to that many players. He has a very like close control, similar to like a lot of like players with a low center of gravity, but the pace at which he moves and it kind of glides, it looks a little bit different. But nonetheless, point being, he's a massive threat. Massive threat. It's going to be huge for Brighton. And Brighton are typically very, very good at home. And this game will be at home. I also just love Jorginho Ruter. I spoke about this in one of my other previews. He's just so good. He could do everything. His control, he presses well defensively. He can get you a header. He just contributes in so many ways. He's such a good player. Honestly, I would love him at Manchester United. But I don't think we need him. But I'm just saying, like, that's a player that I would love. But I think it's going to be a very gritty match. I think Matoma is going to have some joy. Ultimately, I'm just going to predict 2-0 victory for Brighton, being at home. I have a strong record there, and yeah, I would expect that to continue. Bournemouth versus Burnley. Bournemouth have had a really poor run of form lately. They started off the season really well. It looked like they were going to be a top 4 team come the end of the season, but again, it's a 38 match weeks. It is definitely a marathon, not a sprint, and Bournemouth is a testament to that. But again, I think they're going to take a bit of confidence from the United game, even though they didn't win. They drew against United at home or away from home. United is typically pretty good away from home, so I think that is definitely something that they're going to take some confidence from. They also scored 4 goals in that game. Another thing that they're going to take confidence from. I think Tyler Adams being injured is going to be a big loss for them, but Scott is going to fill in and play pretty well. He has a lot of quality on the ball. He has a lot of energy. He presses well defensively. He's quality. It's just going to be a very good. I think he'll fill in pretty fine. For Bournemouth, Tavernier, Evan Nilsson, Kluivert, and Semenyo are just quality players. No, I'm not going to say world class, but definitely quality players. I think Bournemouth should win this game because Burnley are just not a super expressive team, which plays definitely into Bournemouth's favor. And I think they're going to struggle a lot against Bournemouth's press. Bournemouth love to press high. It's a big part of their game model. I think that's going to help them win this game. I think Burnley is also going to have a really tough time against Semenyo, if I'm going to be honest. He's just such a good player, great finisher. Hopefully United sign him. If we have him at that left wing back, I think we just become unstoppable, really. But, I think they're going to have a tough time with him. I would expect him to score a goal or provide an assist. I was going to say Ugochukwu is a quality player, robust, could defend, carry the ball, just a big guy in general. And against Fulham, he was going forward a lot. He even scored a goal, but unfortunately, he is also going to be at AFCON with Nigeria, so they're going to miss him in this game. And they're also going to miss Hannibal Mejbri. Don't want to forget about him. He's going to be with Tunisia. Ultimately, I'm going to predict 3-1 Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth gets their first win in a while, I believe. And it's going to be at home. They're going to be, they're going to be desperate for it. Tottenham versus Liverpool. This is probably the game of the weekend, I think. Actually, no. There's another game that could be contending for that we will get to. Although the Newcastle-Chelsea game is also going to be really good. But this could definitely be game of the weekend. Spurs have been looking a lot better with Archie Gray in midfield. And as my friend Uno would say, not playing both Paina and Betancourt. I think it's just very defensive. And for a team that's struggling to create chances, I think you just can't play two CDMs like that. And I do say that they've been looking a lot better, but they did lose 3-0 to Nottingham Forest, which is a team that's close to relegation. So, but I feel like I do have to caveat that with the fact that two of those were just bangers. There's not really much you can do about that. And then one was Archie Gray losing the ball in build-up. For me, Xavi Simons has to play in the 10, at least until Madison comes back, which is, I don't think that's going to be in the season. So Simmons has to be at the 10, unless you want to put Bergvall there. But I would personally put Bergvall and Archie Gray deeper and then have Xavi Simons at the 10. I think, especially with Sarr, because Sarr is also going to be at AFCON with Senegal. Yeah, I said Tottenham got thrashed by Nottingham Forest. Hopefully, I think they're going to want to come back with a vengeance, especially this game is at home. For Liverpool, Curtis Jones has been great. I think he has to start because McAllister just hasn't been that good for me, in my opinion, this whole season. Obviously, I think he was injured. He didn't have a preseason, so obviously that plays into it, but he just hasn't really looked like the same player, if you ask me. Curtis Jones has been class. McAllister, he's always making the extra pass when it's just unnecessary. I think he could do some time on the bench, could do him some good. I think Hunter Bradley will do a better job with Kolomwani than Soboslai would. So I would have Soboslai in midfield, and I would have Bradley return to right back. Also, just because Joe Gomez is injured anyways, I don't think he's going to be the solution either way, but he is injured. Salah has looked better, but he's still wasteful, and he just looks like a shell of himself. And I forgot to write in my notes, but I should note he is also going to be at AFCON with Egypt, so he's not going to be available. But Verts, I think Verts has still been a disappointment. I don't think it's as bad as people say. I think he's, obviously you can't just look at stats. Stats aren't everything. But I would say he has been a disappointment. I mean, any player that's signed for that fee, 150 million, or was it 150? I think it's 120 million pounds. You're going to expect goals and assists. And right now, Verts just doesn't seem like a player who's going to ever score you 10 goals in the Premier League. But we'll see. Ekitike, though, is just so good. And obviously, I have to glaze him because I'm Cameroonian. He's also, even though he doesn't play for Cameroon, he plays for France. He is of Cameroonian descent, so I do have to glaze. I remember my dad actually told me about him long ago when he had signed for PSG. That had to be at least 3 years ago. And now, look at where he is. His quality on the ball, dropping deep, linking play, holding it up. He can finish. Really, he could just do everything. He can even play off the left. He's so good. I'm going to go with a 2-1 Liverpool victory. Although, again, I think this game is very unpredictable. Liverpool has been very inconsistent throughout the season. They've started really poorly, but they've started playing better lately. But again, they've been super inconsistent. Tottenham have been super inconsistent. They'll beat City, and then they'll drop points to Wolves. Or they'll get battered against Forest. So I'm going to go with the 2-1 Liverpool victory, but again, I think very unpredictable game. On to Leeds versus Crystal Palace. I would say Crystal Palace, like I said, they played really well against Man City during the week, but they did lose. They have a really strong team. Wharton is just brilliant. One of the best center mids in the league. He had a great ball to Pino, who hit the bar. It was very unlucky. Pino is a player who I was not familiar with before this season. I can't lie. But he's been very, very good. very impressive. I think his close control is amazing. I think what he's doing in that left 10 is really good. Palace is playing in the Conference League tomorrow as of when I'm filming this. So that is something to definitely consider. I think they could be a little bit tired coming into that game, depending on how Glasner decides to play it. Another thing I completely forgot to write in my notes, but Glasner is not going to be re-signing with Crystal Palace. So that is something to look out for. I think he's one of the best managers in the Premier League, probably definitely top 5 manager in the Premier League right now, which is the best league in the world. So I think we definitely need to look out for where is Glasner going to go next. I think any club should want to have Glasner. Even as a United fan, I fully back Amorim, but in the back of my mind, if Glasner is available, maybe that's a gamble that you take. I personally wouldn't take it, but definitely something to consider. Ismaila Sarr is going to be at AFCON with Senegal, so that's going to be a major loss for Crystal Palace. He's been really good this season, but I think they just have enough to overcome it. Wharton is just so good. I think Leeds are better than the results would make them seem. Calvert-Lewin is a huge aerial threat. Tanaka, he scored a banger. One of the last times I watched Leeds, Anton Stack is also really good. Leeds like a long throw. I think that's something that Palace definitely deal with pretty well. Ultimately, I think Leeds are going to be tough to beat, especially at home, but I'm going to go with a 2-0 Palace victory. Palace is just a really good side. On to Everton versus Arsenal. I think we may see Gabriel Jesus start. I mean, the way Gyökeres has been playing, he's just been awful. He's been garbage, if we're going to be honest. If we're going to be frank, his touch just isn't good. He's not an Arsenal striker. And people were saying this in the summer. But at the same time, people have been saying for a long time, and I've been saying, Arsenal needed to be ruthless in the transfer window. They needed to get a striker. I didn't really think he was the striker for them, but in the beginning, it seemed like it was paying off. Lately, not so much. But again, he's coming off injury, so maybe that's part of it. Shame to see Ben White come off injured again. I love Ben White. I mean, I think when he plays, that's when Arsenal play their best attacking football. He makes Bukayo Saka look so good with the inverting, the overlaps. They just have such a great understanding of each other, and it results in a lot of goals and productivity for Arsenal. So it's a shame to see him go off with an injury last game. I think Arsenal just don't create enough chances. I think that's a huge problem, and I think at some point we're going to see Arteta try Odegaard and Eze in midfield together. So if you ask me personally, I think Odegaard is more of an 8. I don't think he's creative enough to be a 10. I think he's very tidy on the ball. He's good. He's actually great defensively, a lot better than I feel like a lot of people give him credit for. I think he's more suited for that 8. Obviously, you have Declan Rice playing there, and I have to get to Rice. I think Declan Rice is a great player, one of the best midfielders in the Prem, but it's getting to the point where he's so overrated. I mean, I saw this video where it was one of the overlap videos, and the Arsenal correspondent that they had there was saying that Rice is in line to win the Ballon d'Or. And I'm just like, are we being serious? Declan Rice? Like, oh my God. It's like after he scored those 2 free kicks, he could do no wrong. And he's a great player. Again, one of the best midfielders in the Premier League, but he's not. People try to pretend like his all-around game is so amazing. He doesn't really provide, he doesn't really score you that many goals. Defensively, he's amazing. You can't really say anything about him defensively, and his delivery on set pieces is amazing, but in terms of goals and assists, if you're taking set pieces out of the equation, it's not as impressive as people make it out to be. I think when you look at a midfielder like Bruno, I think he's got a lot more to his game. Look at a midfielder I think he's of a similar level to Baleba. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for that take, but I just don't see how he's that much better than Baleba. Realistically, I just don't see it. Um, I really don't see it. Now, I'm sorry, guys. Going through some minor technical difficulties. But, anyways, Calafiori is supposed to be back, which I think is going to be huge for Arsenal. He's just so good. I mean, I think, I think of left backs. I think he's better than Kukurea. And most people have Kukurea like the best left back in the world. So I think I can confidently say, oh no, there's Nuno Mensch. Okay, so I'd say it's either between Calafiori or Nuno Mensch for the best left back in the world. He's just so good. He does everything. He defends like a madman. He can play center back. He can play left back. He's clamping up everyone. He can carry the ball. He can dribble. He's good for a banger. He's had, I think, a couple disallowed this season, but he's scored at least one banger this season. He's good for a banger. Good delivery. He can invert into midfield. He's just quality. He's just class. Everton, they're going to be without their best player in Iliman Ndiaye, someone who I really would want United to sign. I think, honestly, over Semenyo for that left wing back. I think it's a very similar profile to Ahmad, as my friend Mark was saying. And I think that that's something that we want. If we could have two Ahmads, of course, I would take two Ahmads. But Mark also had brought up the fact that he would probably be a lot more expensive than Semenyo. So I do understand it from that point of view. And also Semenyo, I think Cunha, at least this season, he hasn't been showing up that much with the goals. I think if you have a bigger goal threat on the wing back for that balance, whereas you have Mbemo, who's more of, or Mbemo, who's more of the goal threat on the right at the 10. I think that would be a nice little balance. But yeah, they're gonna be without Ndiaye. He's gonna be at AFCON with Senegal. But that is an opportunity for Tyler Dibling, someone who I honestly thought we would have seen a lot more of this season, but I guess Moyes is being smart and, really managing his minutes as a young player, not throwing him in to the deep end. But he's a very, very talented player. I think, this is a huge opportunity for him. I think it's going to be very difficult because, again, Calafiori, top two left back in the world, in my opinion. But definitely something to look out for. When Arsenal really needed a goal against Wolves in the end, they were able to get it almost instantly. So while I say, it is difficult for them to create chances, they don't create that many chances. I guess when it comes down to it, they can when they need to. And I think that's also, Jesus scored that goal. That's going to be huge for his confidence, given that he's missed so much time with injuries. Like it's honestly shocking. Since that first season he was amazing. If Jesus had stayed healthy from that first season that he came to Arsenal, I don't think we ever are having these discussions about Arsenal need a striker. Arsenal need a striker. They need to be ruthless in the market. Because Jesus was that good. I love Gabriel Jesus. I think it's tough. He's missed so much time, but I think, he's Brazilian. He's just got that quality. I want him to succeed. Hopefully he gets a start, because I think he's just better than Gyökeres. I think when Havertz is also back and Jesus is more healthy, I think we're going to see a lot less Gyökeres. Because you gotta think, even when Gyökeres had come back, we were still seeing Mikel Merino start games. And knowing Arteta, he could start Mikel Merino, versus Everton. We'll have to see. Even though he's a midfielder, we know it's not past Arteta. So, and then for Everton, Branthwaite is still going to be out, which, he's been out all season. So I guess this is not really, a big loss in the traditional sense, but he's such a good player. He's probably Iliman Ndiaye is their best player, but he's so good. He's so good. But I really just don't see how Everton do well this game. They're without Ndiaye. Jack Grealish, he's going to be coming up against Timber, one of the best right backs in the world. Arsenal's backline is just so solid. It's just I don't really see Everton creating anything. I'm gonna have to go with a 3-0 Arsenal victory. Now, on to the game that I think could rival the Tottenham Liverpool game for game of the weekend. It has to be Aston Villa versus Manchester United. I think this is a game where we're gonna get a lot of goals. It's gonna be exciting. Definitely gonna be exciting to watch. I think United, we've been starting off really, really well, but then we fall off. If games were just 35 minutes, we'd be top of the league. But we always capitulate. We always fall apart. We start off strong, and then for whatever reason, we fall off. Maguire, I think, is going to be back soon, which is going to help. We desperately need Maguire or De Ligt. We need someone who, because Heaven, at that central center back, he's just not, he's not going to be someone who can command the back line, lead, put people in order, tell them where they need to be. He's like 20, he's my age, He doesn't have enough experience at this level for that to be something that you're expecting of him. So yeah, there is a lack of leadership in our back line, and I think that it's a major problem. It's why, we were heaping praise for Lamens that first game, but we've barely had any clean sheets. We need to have some clean sheets. We need to show we can defend a little bit. I love attacking it. I love that we score goals. I'm entertained now when I watch United, and I think we're on pace to score over 70 goals, which is only going to be the second time since Sir Alex has left. The other time was with Ollie. Love Ollie, attacking football. But we're attacking again. So this is exciting to see as a United fan, but obviously you wish for more solidity at the back. Laurie Whitwell had reported that United were training in a 4-3-3, and it was funny. We saw Amorim in his post-game press conference. Or no, was it the post-game press conference was basically saying that, you guys knew that we had been training for the back. I don't know how you knew that. So I think Amorim definitely seemed frustrated about that. And seeing how the new leadership structure is, I think they're definitely going to try to get to the bottom of who the mole is, because it's really amazing just how much these reporters are able to get their hands on, especially at a club. Like, you would expect they're all together, everyone's on the same page, and we want to win, especially after all the rhetoric we were hearing from this summer, how much time all the guys were spending together, how they're building a bond. Something that was really surprising to me to see that report come out, but also just the fact that we're looking at, a 4-3-3. I think this could be because of AFCON. So you're missing Mbemo, you're missing Ahmad, you're missing Mazraoui. I think that is, that's probably what is prompting it. Although Amorim has said, once he thinks that we're ready to adapt, then we will. Maybe he thinks we're ready. Maybe he's doing this for the defensive solidity. But I think it's probably, if we do see a 4-3-3, I think it's probably because of AFCON. I think, does Lissandro start? That is a good question. I think, we might see, if it's a back four, we might see Heaven and Yoho. I low-key would rather see Lissandro and Heaven, personally. I think Yoho has just not been that good. I said this in my match reaction to the Bournemouth game. He just hasn't been that good for a while now, and we don't want to keep throwing him in the fire. We do want to give him a chance to come out of it, but we don't want to consistently be throwing him into the fire. I think he needs some time to come back to himself. I know he's a Christian. I saw that he was, he posted a scripture. And I know that he's definitely going to Christ to, for solace, regain his confidence. But until that confidence is regained, I think sitting on the bench for a couple games could do him a lot of good just to raise his standards again. Obviously, he wants to do well. I think he is very motivated. He has high standards, but I think, when you're really out on the periphery and you constantly have to prove yourself, that changes a lot. I think Mane was likely to start, which is, a lot of Manchester United fans are going to be rejoicing because he's, that's a beloved academy graduate. I mean, it's the best player that I've seen, the best player to break through recently from our academy. I think Greenwood is our best academy graduate since the class of 92. I mean, he's sensational. He really could win a Ballon d'Or. I think he probably won't end up winning it because, all the controversy. I think it's going to be hard for him to win individual awards in his career, but it's not for a lack of quality. I think as our front three, I think Amarim is going to go with Mount, Cunha, and Seshko. And I think that's going to be a great front line. I think, Mount, when he used to play in the 3-4-3 at Chelsea, it wasn't ever on the left. He used to be on that right. So we haven't seen that much of that from Mount. But I think now that Mbeumo's gone, Ahmad is gone, we might see him on the right. We might see Lacey make an appearance. He wasn't listed on the bench against Bournemouth, but he's been listed in a couple matchday squads. I think Amarim knew, AFCON is coming. We're going to be missing a lot of our right-sided players. I think, maybe Villa is not the game that you just throw him into the fire, but definitely something to look out for. If we play 3-4-3, there is a question of, is Dorgu going to play right wing back and Dalot left wing back? Because honestly, I think Dalot, I was hating on Dalot in the beginning of the season, but he has really had a resurgence. And he was our player of the year a couple of seasons back, obviously when we were playing in a back four, but now that left wing back, he really has started to make it his own. And I think, we've seen Dorgu play the right wing back. He is probably better on the left, but something that we could definitely see, something to look out for. But I think the natural thing to do would be to put Dalot right wing back, Dorgu left wing back. But I don't know if it ain't broke. I don't know if you fix it, But Aston Villa have been on blazing form. They've won 9 straight games after starting off very, very slowly. I don't think they won a game in the first month. And I was shocked. I think I predicted Villa to finish like 9th or 8th, something like that. So I didn't think they were going to be flying, which, now they are. Now they're 3rd. But I definitely did not expect them to be doing that poorly in the beginning. But yeah, they've won 9 straight games. Rodgers is going to be very, very difficult to start. He's been playing really, really well. You even see people saying that, they would start him over Bellingham in the World Cup, which I think is blasphemous. Morgan Rodgers is a great player, but Bellingham is arguably the best player in the world. Let's be serious. But if that's even an argument, that just is a testament to how good Morgan Rodgers has been playing. He's going to be very difficult to stop. But I think either Dorgu or Dalot, I hope it's Dorgu. I really hope it's Dorgu. Which means, I guess I want Dorgu on the right. Yeah, I definitely would want Dorgu to play a right wing back if we're going to be playing the 3-4-3. But hopefully, if Yoho is selected, hopefully he is up for it. Because again, he's been scaring me a lot. Villa's midfield has legs. This could be something that's very difficult for us to deal with. I think Kamara and Onana are just class. They're so good. They're just so good. There's not much else to say. They're just so good. And I think we struggle against midfields that have legs. It's a shame that Casemiro is, suspended because he got that yellow card last game. But I think we can cope. I hope we stick with the 3-4-3 because I really don't want to see Ugarte. If I see Ugarte, no. I mean, Ugarte could be fine. But if I see Ugarte and we lose, I never want to see Ugarte play for this club ever again. One of the worst midfielders that I've ever seen play for this club. And I was honest, I was telling my friend Mark that, you know, if this is what Ugarte is going to do, this is all he's good for. And I would initially, I never even was a fan of the Ugarte signing to begin with, because João Neves was clearly the better player, clearly the elite prospect. And we bought Ugarte, which helped PSG fund João Neves, when we could have just bought João Neves. I'm sure Bruno could have convinced him to come. So that is really frustrating. But I was telling my friend Mark, if this is what we have in Ugarte, we should have just kept Amrabat. Amrabat, if it's just a player who's going to mark someone out of the game, Amrabat literally did that. He did that in the FA Cup when we won against Manchester City to great effect. He has that athleticism. He's robust. I mean, he's playing for Betis, I believe, now, who are playing really well. I mean, he's playing with Antony. And he would have been way cheaper. We wouldn't have had to blow 50 million. I think it was a $12 million option to make it a permanent move. And we spent 50 million pounds on Ugarte, who's just, I'd be surprised if he stays past the summer. I mean, there were already reports where Amorim had said he's not the same player that he knew from Sporting. I'd be very surprised if Ineos hold on to Ugarte. But nonetheless, United have a great record against Villa in recent history. I think, I can't remember the last time we've lost to Villa, to be honest. Ten Hag always did really good against Emery. The last game of the season last year that we played, I think, was the best game under Amorim that we had played up to that point. We just dominated Villa. We always do really well with Villa. I think Villa is a team that plays to our strengths. They like to press high, which we love. We love to draw you out and then boot it long, and then boom, we're gone, and play direct. I think they love playing a high line, which also plays to our strengths, which is why I think against Bournemouth I feel like they are similar in some ways to Bournemouth, and that was a team that we could have scored. We scored 4 goals, and we honestly should have scored more. So I think this is a team that we could have a lot of joy against. It really comes down to, is our defense going to be solid? And that's what it's come down to all these games. It's so frustrating how we consistently drop points from winning positions. Very, very frustrating. But yeah, I think it's bold to predict, but I'm gonna go with a United win. I think, again, high line, Bowen capitalized on it last week. I think we could definitely capitalize on it, which, we might not be as, set up to do, as inclined to do without Mbemo, because he's really our main runner. But Seshko is a player who has a lot of pace. He can do it. Cunha is rapid as well. We still have runners. We still have players who will be willing to do it. Dorgu also, willing runner. So, yeah, I think I'm going to expect a 4-2 United victory because, we look like we're going to give up goals against any team that we play, but we also look like we're going to score a lot of goals every time that we touch the pitch. I think it's going to be a little bit different, obviously, since we're missing, key players in Ahmad and Mbemo for our attack due to AFCON, but I still think we should be very threatening. So, again, I'm going to go with a 4-2 United victory. And then as for the last game, I know, guys, it's been a very long video. We're at about an hour right now, but just bear with me. It's the last one. We got Fulham versus Nottingham Forest. A game that I don't really think it's going to be that entertaining. But Fulham, I mean, they're already not a great side, and I feel for Marco Silva because the club, similar to Glasner, which is why I think Glasner is not re-signing. For Palace, they didn't show him. Glasner literally won. He won the FA Cup and got you into European competitions. And he finished pretty high up in the table. Now you're in the Conference League. I wouldn't be surprised if Palace won the Conference League. But you have all that success, and then you let Eze go, and you bring no one in. You bring no one noteworthy in. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't show ambition. So as a man, it's going to be hard to keep a quality manager if you don't show ambition as an ownership group. And I could say the same for Fulham and Marco Silva. I don't know. I mean, Marco Silva overachieved last season, and you bring him no signings. It doesn't make sense. What do you expect? It's not going to be successful. Again, maybe their financial situation is, that awful that they really couldn't afford to do it. But it just doesn't make sense to me. You bring no one in, and you're a team that's already middle of the pack, and the Premier League is the most competitive league where, all of a sudden you can find yourself at the bottom. I mean, Manchester United and Tottenham were, I think, 16th and 5th or 17th and 15th respectively last season. So I just find that to be ridiculous, because now AFCON is here and they're missing some of their best players, a lot of their best, three of their five best players, I would say, in Chukwueze, what's his name, Iwobi, and Calvin Bassi. They're all going to be at AFCON for Nigeria. Those are 3 for 5 best players. So I think this is going to be a very difficult match for Fulham when it should not be. These are two teams that are, I mean, if you look at the table, of similar stature. Fulham, really good on the break. I think, their left side was super strong when you had Chukwueze, Robinson, and Smith Rowe. You still got Robinson and Smith Rowe, so it's going to be strong, but again, they're missing so much due to AFCON. I think Igor Jesus is a huge threat for Nottingham Forest. Forest love putting balls into the box, typical Sean Dyche ball. And I think this could be a huge issue for Fulham. I think it was going to be an issue for Fulham regardless of Calvin Bassi being there or not, but especially now that he's not going to be there, I think it's going to be an even bigger issue for them. Sangare is going to be at AFCON, so we're probably going to see Douglas Luiz in midfield again. I don't think he started in a while because I know he did get injured. I think he got injured against Manchester United, actually. But he's a quality player. I mean, if it weren't for injuries, he'd be probably, going crazy for Juve right now. So I think we could expect quality from him. Hudson-Odoi is also going to be at AFCON for Nottingham Forest. So both teams are missing key players, to be fair. But maybe we'll see McAtee in the starting lineup, off the right, Hutchinson off the left, something like that. And I think that'll be exciting to see because I want to see these young players play. That's one of the things I was mainly excited about for this season for Nottingham Forest, seeing the likes of Omari Hutchinson, seeing the likes of a James McAtee now that he got his move away from City, seeing what he's really made of. But ultimately, I'm going to predict a 2-0 Forest victory. And yeah, those are all the matches. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your predictions are, what your reactions are to my predictions. Let me know if I had any awful takes. Let me know if there are any videos that you want to see. And I just hope that you have a great night, a great weekend of viewership, Premier League, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.